We are going to try to talk the Philadelphia 76ers today on Trending in the AM. But I've got a sneaky feeling 90% of this show is going to be talking about our freaking Super Bowl appearing Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to try to talk Sixers. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms, but do me that favor. Head over to the DSM Media YouTube page, hit the like button on this video, the subscribe button, that little bell that turns the notifications on so you never miss a minute when DSM Media is live. And we are live nonstop this week, next week, as we continue the trek to Super Bowl 57. Our Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Make sure you drop your comments, your thoughts, concerns, questions, anything you want to talk about on the YouTube page or the Facebook page if you're watching on Twitter. We can't see it. We appreciate it, but we can't see any of your comments over there. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. We got Jason Voorhees sitting in next to me. We got lots to talk about. I want to talk the Philadelphia 76ers. Huge win on Saturday. Huge loss last night. But, like, deep down inside, Jason, I could care less. Like, the Sixers have been the luckiest team in sports history. They stunk in the beginning of the season, but the Phillies were on a trek to the World Series. They are red hot right now, but the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Is this not the luckiest damn team there is? They keep getting saved from the conversation by every other team in Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, because they'd be getting crushed today if it weren't.
Oh, my God, I would be destroying them today for losing last night to the Magic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, like, you know, the talk of everything. But fortunately for the Sixers, yes, they have been pretty lucky in, kind of going to the back page. But, you know, in retrospect, you do got to give them credit because, honestly, like, I've been so plugged into the Eagles that I haven't really watched. I mean, last year I kind of started watching the Sixers a lot more and being more in tune with with basketball in general. But this year I've kind of, like, obviously with the Eagles and obviously, as you mentioned, the Phillies, I've been so plugged into that.
Yeah.
But I almost forgot about
Adam's comment here is perfect to start the show off. Good morning, guys. Is it the Super Bowl yet? I'm sitting there watching the Eagles game or the Sixers game last night. And normally, if there's nothing else on, I'm live tweeting the Sixers game. I'm focused in. All I was doing, at one point, they were up 20. I looked up and they were down 7. I don't even know what happened between the second and third quarter because I was just on my phone on Twitter, just liking and retweeting and commenting and talking Eagles. It's like my mind, you were last week all pumped up all week. You couldn't wait till Championship Sunday. Well, me, I don't know how I'm going to wait 2 weeks till the Super Bowl. Like, my mind should be in 8 different places. Work, the Sixers, podcast, whatever. All my mind is in one place, and that's the Super Bowl. Is it Super Bowl Sunday yet, Adam? Is it? Have you gotten your order in, Adam, for Super Bowl Sunday? That's all I got to ask you. Make sure you get that order in early. I mean, how can we focus on anything else when we are in the Super Bowl, Jason?
I mean, it's hard. I can't even focus on work. Like yesterday, I'm at work and I'm like trying to sneak on Twitter and see what the next, what's being said. And of course, you're seeing all the negativity from the 49ers fans and even the national media. Like,
probably not 49ers fans. It's probably Cowboys fans and Giants fans in disguise as 49ers fans. I'm just going to say that right now.
It's just embarrassing, honestly. I mean, the narratives that are going around, it's just like, it's almost like I said to you before, though, and I know we're steering off back to the football here.
This is the way it's going to be. Like, I've got plenty of ideas for conversational points today for Eagles. Like, Sixers, like, I don't even know. Like, do I complain about the performance last night? Do I complain about Doc Rivers coaching? Do I complain that Tyrese Maxey was on the bench the last 4 minutes of the game? I don't really care. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess yesterday when I was doing the same thing as you, kind of farting around on Twitter, my ire started going up because it's like I'm happy about the win, but you know how like last week you had that one day when you were just like pissed off and like at the disrespect, and it's like here we go again. Like now we win 31-7, we dominate a game. Okay, yes, I get it. Their quarterback was out. They didn't have a quarterback. You don't have to keep reminding us that. We watched it.
Yeah.
We watched Hassan Reddick go free. There was nobody covering him, and it was a legit tackle. It's not like it was a cheap shot and he hit the guy in the head or something. And it was just a tackle.
Blame your coach for having a second string tight end blocking Hassan Reddick. Don't blame the Eagles or turn this into something with the Eagles. Dude, it's going to be 2 straight weeks now of just disrespect constantly. And it's going to be the mighty Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and this narrative of how much greater they are. And then if the Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, and we will, when that happens, it'll be, well, you beat Patrick Mahomes on a bum ankle. The narrative is constantly one thing. And then after the Eagles smash that narrative, it was the Giants are a better team. They just beat the Vikings. And then after the game, it was, well, you beat an up-and-coming Giants team that wasn't supposed to be in the playoffs. You beat the 40. The 49ers are going to win because Brock Purdy is the next coming of Tom Brady. Well, you just beat Brock Purdy, and he got hurt in the game. The narrative every single week we beat Cooper Rush, and it was just their backup quarterback of the Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys beat our backup, but that doesn't matter. The narrative just constantly changes every single week, no matter what the story is before the game. The narrative switches to something else to try to bring the Eagles back down. And we might get frustrated. We might get pissed off on a daily basis. But the one thing I want to give credit to is the Eagles. Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts does not let anybody buy into. Yeah, I'm sure they hear it. A lot of people say they don't pay attention to social media or Sports Center. They do. They turn the radio on. They hear the narratives out there. They have not let those narratives be a distraction this year. If anything, they've let those narratives be a motivation.
Yeah, I mean, you just spot on nailed it. I was just going to say, I think it's like we talked about in 2017 about, the underdog mentality. I don't necessarily think this is the same scenario. I don't think the Eagles are an underdog. I think this is more of like, we don't get the respect for being actually a great team, which they are. And when we finish this off with a Super Bowl win, and I'm being confident, I don't care what people think. I firmly believe
it's so hard to make an unbiased prediction for the
Super
Bowl.
I really do. I feel it in my veins that we are going to win the game because I think we're better than the Chiefs. I really do. I think on paper, the only thing that they're better at is probably the quarterback spot, but I don't think it's like as big of a margin as many people think. I really don't. I think Jalen Hurts has risen to that upper tier level. And yes, I get it. It's going to be a test to beat Pat Mahomes. But my point is like, when are people going to finally give us that respect? Because like you said, if we do win the game, it's still going to be, well, we beat Pat Mahomes on a bum ankle. It won't be, oh, wow, the Eagles were a really solid, excellent, all the way up from top to bottom, from Jeff Lurie, who's basically set the gold standard with this organization, to Howie Roseman, who, we were ready to put him in the corner. And, here he comes in the last 5 seasons, we're in 2 Super Bowls. I mean, what this team is doing is like, and this team to me is set for long-term success. It's not just like 2017 where it was like almost like, and I'm not saying it was like luck. I mean, yes, things had to happen and fall into place. Nick Foles had the game, the couple games of his life.
Right.
But we still had a solid team then. But it was a team that was a little bit more veteran-oriented. It was a lot of veterans that were kind of on their way out. And, we were at the point where it was going to almost have to be a rebuild anyway. So they kind of won. And it was one and done.
I don't even want to worry about 2023 yet. But then the news drops yesterday with the salary cap It's going up to the highest it's ever been. It's like a $17 million increase.
Yeah.
So you're throwing Howie Roseman an extra $17 million on top of Lane Johnson's 97th restructure of his contract. There's plenty of money to go around. There's literally everybody. I got into it with somebody the other day. Well, you're going to lose all these defensive players in the offseason, and we'll see if Jonathan Gannon, it was basically another Gannon hater, not willing to accept the good that Jonathan Gannon has done. It's all because of the talent. Well, let's be honest. Howie Roseman will find a way. Yeah, we might not keep Bradbury and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and TJ Edwards and Kassir White and Fletcher. We might not keep them all, but we're going to keep some of them. And if not, we're going to replace them. And Howie Roseman has learned. You see the way he has rebuilt this team. You see how he has learned from his past mistakes. We've crushed Howie Roseman in this city for a long time. We have. But how many GMs have swallowed their pride and said, I was wrong in the past. No more drafting, these guys from unknown schools in the first and second round. It's Alabama. It's Clemson. It's Georgia. Let's go to the elite and get the elite players from the elite teams. And let's build around them. And that's what Howie Roseman has done. And I think it's a compliment to him.
You've always said, you've said this. I wish I could get a count of how many times you've said it, because it's probably been
record on this show.
Probably been over 1,000. But you've always said, we win it in the trenches. The Eagles are built. They're the gold standard in both sides of the ball on the trenches. And I don't think there was any more important acquisition, all the things that Howie has done well, than Hassan Reddick. Reddick, we talked about year after year. My biggest gripe, and I know you were with me, was that we didn't have that elite pass rusher. We had good pass rush. We had Brandon Graham. We had Derek Barnett. We had Josh Sweat. We had guys that could rush the passer. But Hassan Reddick is on another level. He's elite. And that's what we've been missing for all these years. Because when you have a guy that can by himself put pressure on the quarterback, then all of a sudden it makes everybody single else on that defense better. Mm-hmm. And you saw it this year, because we went from 29 sacks to 70. Well, that doesn't just happen because you all of a sudden figured it out. That's Hassan Reddick. That's why.
I said it. I was on the Painted Lines. I was on their preseason prediction show, and I made this bold prediction. It was basically an over/under show. They said X player over under this stat, and it was over under 10.5 sacks for Hassan Reddick. And I said, smash the over. And I said, we're gonna hit 18.5 sacks. And he damn well came close to 18.5 sacks. But everyone on that show was like, wow, that's really bold. Like, that's insane. I'm like, no, we're just not used to that level of pass rush on this team. Like, I had prepped for that show, and I realized that the most recent guy to get big numbers was Jason Babin. I'm like, Hassan Reddick is 10 times the player that Jason Babin is. There was no reason for Hassan Reddick not to have a chance to break Jason Babin's most recent number of 18 sacks. And he came damn close. I mean, he didn't have a sack his first 2 or 3 games. And honestly, if you didn't drop him into coverage, which that's another whole conversation, he might have had 20 sacks if you just let him blitz the quarterback nonstop. But you win in the trenches. That's a repetitive thing. But having an elite pass rush, it does something. You know what I mean? It helps the safeties out. It helps the cornerbacks out. It makes your linebackers look a little better. The mental clock in a quarterback's head, when you have an elite pass rush, speeds up. It changes the play calls an offense can do because they have to worry about that elite pass rush. Nobody was worried about our pass rush last year. Nobody. So they could run any form of offense they wanted against our defense. The pass rush is just so important. And let's be honest, when you have Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs on a bum ankle, you don't have an elite wide receiver for the Chiefs that could stretch the field like Tyreek Hill anymore. That elite pass rush is going to change everything that Andy Reid wants to do on Super Bowl Sunday. If we had last year's pass rush, we probably wouldn't be here right now. But if you have a weaker pass rush, that changes everything. The game plan on both sides of the ball. So I think the Hassan Reddick, I brought it up on Monday's show, and I'll say it again, I know there were so many great moves Howie made. In my mind, the Hassan Reddick move set the tone for this team right from the get-go and may have been the most important move that was made this offseason.
Yeah, and to your point earlier that,
here.
we probably will lose a few of our star, defensive players. We're not going to lose Reddick. He's here for 3 years. So even if we do lose some of those guys, I believe that Reddick's presence and that ability to rush the passer on an elite level, it makes even average players better. So you could virtually, you're going to lose people. We know that. It's the NFL. But what I'm saying is that you could lose a guy and plug somebody else in, and you're not going to drop off. You might not have 70 sacks next year. You might not.
I mean, there's a reason why that record of 72 is so tough to break,
Correct.
I mean, that's an elite number. I do want to address George's comment here. The pass rush and the secondary, I think they do go hand in hand. The elite secondary does help the pass rush, but also the pass rush does help the secondary as well. I do think that, yes, I'm looking at it from the defensive line front because I love that play, interior play, but I do understand that the secondary does play a factor in it. But if you take James Bradbury off this team and add, I don't know who the next option would have been this offseason. Just say we brought back Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson would have had a better season this year. Not a James Bradbury level, but Steven Nelson would have had a better season than he did last year, this year, because of the elite pass rush. That's just what I'm trying to get at with that point there.
I mean, obviously the hope is that we've seen Howie. He's a magician when it comes to the cap. So, I don't think it's necessarily a foregone conclusion we're going to lose everybody. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be – I think, obviously, Jalen Hurts' contract, that's going to be the big,
Yeah, but that's for the offseason. I'm not worried about the offseason right now. I want to bring up this point here because this is something – we'll get back to the Sixers maybe. I have a reason why they lost last night, and it's directly tied to the Eagles. But we dropped 31 points on the best defense in the league. That's what nobody – yeah, everybody's talking about how, Brock Purdy got hurt, and that's why that the 49ers lost. Well, nobody on their defense got hurt. We still were able to put up 31 points. We ran the ball at will against the number one rush defense in football. I think a lot more respect needs to be put on what we were able to accomplish offensively in Sunday's game. Because even if you have Brock Purdy, maybe we don't score 31 because they have the ball a little bit more. But we were pretty damn elite on offense. And San Francisco's defense is nowhere near the level of 49ers. They don't have a Nick Bosa. We kept Nick Bosa at bay the entire game. Their top pass rusher, a step below Nick Bosa for sure. So let's put some respect on what the offense, what Shane Steichen, what Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts were capable of doing on Sunday. Let's forget about the injury to Brock Purdy, which, more power, the fact that he was able to go back in there, he didn't really throw the ball, but that UCL tear had to be hurting him massively. Let's give him some props there for, toughing it out and going back in there. But let's give the props to the Eagles offense for doing what they had to do.
I mean, listen, if people want to bitch that, the NFL needs to adjust the roster size and allow for the emergency quarterback again, that's another argument for another day. That's an argument we can have in the offseason. If you're a Niners fan, you say, well, we got screwed because we didn't have it. Okay, I understand.
Maybe you should have a better third-string quarterback than Josh Johnson is all I
understand it, but I will also say that you didn't hear us saying that, the Seahawks got lucky because Carson Wentz got hurt. We just lost. We
may have said that. We weren't doing podcasting back then, but I may have been bitching on my couch about that. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the national media. Yeah. The national media wasn't saying, oh, well, the Seahawks only won because, a quarterback got hurt.
I agree.
And the other thing that people fail to realize is we almost won that game with McCown, who is probably on the same level as Josh Johnson. So, You know, for,
Even older. Yeah, he was like
and
40.
listen, is it our fault that Josh Johnson got a concussion? No, he got, once again, they didn't block. Their scheme was horrible.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a mismatch, how about Nick Sirianni out coaching Mr. Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah, the best coach in football, right?
Yeah, who's told, we're told that he's like a genius, the evil genius. Well, his team didn't look so genius, and then,
So I actually blame the Eagles for the Sixers' loss last night. I do, because if you pay attention, all the Sixers were down the sideline before the game. They were all in Michael Rubin's private box, partying it up. I blame the fact that the Sixers had a little bit of championship party, hangover on Monday, and maybe that's why they came out last night. Can we blame? I mean, I'm sure Joel Embiid, but maybe not Joel Embiid, but definitely James Harden, definitely Tyrese Maxey, those young kids on those Sixers team, all those guys partying. I guarantee there was a big party somewhere, and a lot of the Eagles and a lot of Sixers were there late in the night on Sunday, enjoying the good life and the finer things.
Hell, they might have been on Broad Street for all we know.
I mean, I think in a few years back when, or maybe it was during the Phillies championship. I do know that there was some championship time frame where Joel Embiid was on Broad Street with all the fans. Maybe it was in 2018 when we clinched the Super Bowl berth, and he was a young rookie. I don't know. There was definitely a moment where Embiid was out there celebrating with the people.
Yeah, I mean, Fred's spot on with his comment. Like, I do believe that, Nick outcoached, Kyle. And listen, we did what we had to do to win. But you know what? The skeptics are going to say, they're going to make excuses. We already know that they're going to hate, as you said, the hate and disrespect is going to go on all week. We're going to hear about the Chiefs this, the Chiefs that, Mahomes this, Mahomes that. But at the end of the day, I look at the game and I say, okay, watching that game as an Eagles fan, Jalen Hurts probably put up a B- game. He had nowhere near his best game.
Well, that goes to this comment from George. I would say that Sirianni ran a conservative offense. We didn't need to floor. I actually truly believe that George is right there, that, we put up 31. Let's give them credit, I just said, for still being able to dominate this top-tier defense that the 49ers had. But I think it could have been more.
That's
they
my point.
ran the ball how many more times than passing the ball? That was all dictated by the game flow. I mean, he had a B+ game. He missed some deep throws, but he wasn't forced to have to challenge anybody in the passing game because of the fact that you knew once we were up 14-7 and you were back to Brock Purdy and his torn arm, you didn't need to do anything. You could just keep running the ball, wearing that defensive front down, and
Well, I agree. That's kind of the point I was going at, though. I don't think he had his best game because he didn't have to have his best game. They won the game. They dominated, but it could have been 50 points. I mean, think about it. If Jalen Hurts was throwing the ball, he only threw for 126 yards because they didn't have to. They didn't have to. But had he connected on some of those deep balls, now we're talking maybe 300 yards. Because that one ball to A.J. Brown, that would have been a 70-yard touchdown. So my point is it wasn't that he wasn't attempting the throws. He was off.
Yeah.
I feel that the 2-week, everybody's saying about the 2 weeks that Pat Mahomes is going to have. But what about the 2 weeks for Jalen Hurts getting healthy?
I mean, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes' name, and I will say it, and this is going to be something we bring up a few times on this show. Look, Patrick Mahomes is the better. That is the one part that there's no doubt about it. Check mark on the Chiefs' side. But the one thing that we talk about with Jalen Hurts all the time, the intangibles, the leadership, the never give up attitude. Patrick Mahomes is a better physical quarterback than Jalen Hurts, but Patrick Mahomes is also every single intangible that Patrick Mahomes is as well. I mean, Patrick Mahomes literally is a leader. He's literally anything. He's the magic man out there making random plays out of thin air. Like everything that Jalen Hurts is, Patrick Mahomes is as well. So to me, the biggest concern we'll have going into the Super Bowl is how do we control and stop Patrick Mahomes from magic? I mean, he had all these great weapons. This year, it's just Travis Kelce and a bunch of third-string wide receivers, and he still put up MVP caliber numbers. I mean, that's how damn good Patrick Mahomes is. And I do thoroughly enjoy watching him play football because on any given play, you don't know what he's going to do. Whether he's going to zip a pass to a wide open Travis Kelce, which how does a guy that's 7'9", 400 pounds, that runs like a 4.4 40 find himself wide open on every single offensive play? I have no idea, but he's always open, and Patrick Mahomes finds him all the time. Scantlin. I mean, he doesn't scare me, but he had one of his best seasons of his career because he had Patrick Mahomes throwing to him. It's like I do seriously get concerned when I start thinking about our second Super Bowl means we have to beat Patrick Mahomes.
Well, how about that? You had to beat last era generational player Tom Brady, and now you're going to have to beat this era generational player Pat Mahomes. I mean, to be able to boast that on your resume, well, we not only won 2 Super Bowls, one of them we won with a backup, and the other one we won against Pat Mahomes. I mean, to me, hey, if you're going to be the best, you might as well beat the best. I think it's a fun Super Bowl.
That's like a little Ric Flair, woo, right there.
I'm happy. I'm happy that
gotta beat the best.
See, I'm happy it's the Chiefs. Listen, I love Joe Burrow too. I would have been happy either way because I would have I think both Super Bowls would have been fun. They would have been really fun to watch. But I love, I know Mark has a lot of hate towards Andy Reid, and I'm not like this Andy Reid stan. I don't sit there and go to that level, but I respect what Andy Reid has done. I mean, the guy's
absolutely.
I mean, he took the Eagles to 4 NFC championships in a row, 5 in totality, and he now has 5 AFC championships in a row with the Chiefs. I mean, that's unheard of. That's definitely first ballot Hall of Fame coach. I mean,
he's one of the 5 or 10 best coaches of all time.
Former coach of us. I just think the storylines in this are just endless. The Kelce brothers. First time ever you're going to have 2 brothers going at it. Will they podcast this week? I believe they will.
I've only heard bits and pieces of their show, but if they do a podcast this week, I guarantee I'll be listening to it. Look, I want to address George here. I know our defense is legit and we have a great chance. And I truly, not fan in me, truly analyst in me, do believe we do have a chance to beat the Chiefs. But there was a story and a theory and a thread going around into this playoffs, at the start of the playoffs. I think we talked about it on this show, or maybe me and Dylan did. At the end of this playoffs, would we be talking Joe Burrow as the number 1 quarterback in football instead of Patrick Mahomes? Well, Patrick Mahomes proved last week that he still is the number 1 quarterback in football. He is still the best of the best, still the most elite, and doing it on a bad ankle. I mean, let's not give credit. We talk about Lane Johnson playing with a torn freaking groin. Landon Dickerson, update on him. It seems like it was just a hyperextended elbow, no tears. He'll brace it up. He'll wrap it up. He should play on Super Bowl Sunday. But we're still going up. Patrick Mahomes, for all that we're giving Lane Johnson credit, let's give Patrick Mahomes credit. Most people miss 4 to 6 weeks on a high ankle sprain. I mean, I know it's the playoffs. I know it's the Super Bowl. You're going to tough it out. But not everybody could tough that out. And the fact that he was able to put together what he put together on that injury just proves why he's the elite of the elite.
Saquon Barkley missed 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
I mean Pat
Mahomes, it's his back foot, the push-off.
Pat Mahomes not only has a high ankle sprain, that play that he made at the end of the game, it's almost like you could tell he was hurting.
Absolutely.
And he just throttled it up and took that, he just said, I'm going to run. I'm going to win this game. And for all the people out there bitching and saying that, it was a bit, that the Bengals got cheated because of the bad calls or whatever. Stop. Just stop. Because if you stopped Pat Mahomes on that play, you still get the ball back. So I don't want to hear it. He made a play because he is like Superman. He does. And I agree with you, Phil. We have to, we toot our horn and we want our guys to get credit. But yes, you have to give Pat Mahomes a world of credit.
I'm not, and another great comment from George. And it's like, yeah, our offensive line is way better than their offensive line. Our running back trio is better than Pinchero and McKinnon or whatever the guy's name is that they have running back there. Our wide receivers are head and shoulders above their wide receivers. Kelce is obviously better than Dallas Goedert, but it's pretty close. I mean, Kelsey's the best of the best, but Dallas Goedert's a damn good guy. I agree with that, but I just want to make sure that we're realizing that Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. And even if the Eagles got up, just say that, how I thought the championship game would play out, where the Eagles would get up big and then the 49ers would come back and then we'd have to win at the end. If we're up big in the Super Bowl, the Mahomes and the Chiefs are never going to be out of it. They're going to have we've seen this Eagles team take the foot off the pedal, multiple times this year, let teams back into it. You're going up against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You cannot let your foot off the pedal because Patrick Mahomes is that elite that he will march that team down the field every single drive until he brings them back. So I just want to make sure we're giving credit to Patrick Mahomes for how great he is. Let's not be the national media that say I'd rather, Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes or whatever stupid narrative they'll come up with next. Which I perfect timing when I say stupid narrative. I'm just going to put this up every show throughout the week or two. Just remind ESPN that you put this up there, on your screen, not in week 2, in like week 4.
November, right?
Yeah, it was like mid to late November. Just going to remind everybody, every single show till the Super Bowl, how wrong ESPN was. But yeah, I'm just trying to make sure we're giving credit where credit is due.
I mean, absolutely. I think Pat Mahomes, I've always said it. I mean, there's people out there that were trying to say, oh, Josh Allen was on the level. Absolutely not. Yeah. Pat Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl. He's going this is his 3rd? And he's under 28 years old? Like, the guy, there's nobody on his level. Justin Herbert's not on his level. I think, as you said, Joe Burrow is probably the closest to his level because what Joe Burrow's been able to accomplish in a short time, and he has the moxie and the kahunas, and he's Joe Burrow. I mean, he's like Joe Cool. But other than those two, I think Jalen Hurts is honestly risen to kind of right below that. And
you have to kind of at least put Jalen Hurts on an equal level as Josh Allen. Like most people would say, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen right now is 1, 2, 3. But I don't think enough people would put Jalen Hurts right there. I think at least
I don't care if they call me a homer.
Jalen Hurts has played in a Super Bowl. Josh Allen hasn't made a Super Bowl yet. Joe Burrow in his 2nd year made a Super Bowl, almost made one this year. Patrick Mahomes, obviously everything you said. You got to put Jalen Hurts now in that conversation. Now, I'm not going to say where Jalen Hurts is ranked because the last time I put an Eagles quarterback in the top 4 going into a season, we all know what happened in 2020 after I said that. So I'm not going to do it. But, it's obviously the top tier class. We always say that there's 3 or 4 elite quarterbacks. No. There's Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and then there's the next class of elite. And that's where the Allen and the Hurts comes into play. It's like a tier 1A, and then it's a tier 1B, really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to give Jalen Hurts, what he's been able to do this season. And we always say it, like you and I have been behind Hurts from day one, but we'll both agree I would have never foreseen this kind of a jump in this season.
Nobody could have foreseen him going from a 15th or 16th ranked quarterback in football to arguably the 3rd best quarterback in football in 1 year's time frame. Nobody could have foreseen it.
I mean, that's just kudos to obviously him for putting in the work and for believing in himself. I mean, here's a guy that doesn't let anything bother him. And by the way, that was so funny. What a power move to kind of in a roundabout way introduce his girlfriend without introducing her.
Is that who she was?
Yes.
Are we sure?
But
even that, it wasn't like there's any affection going. He's like, yeah, I'll be back in a few. He
has all the women triggered now.
He's got laser focus. Like, yeah, he's got a woman. Yeah, I'll see you after. Yeah, I'm going back in the locker room to, he cracked a smile finally. It's the first time we've seen him smile ever. But he did say on the sideline, one more. And you know what? That's the kind of attitude that separates. It goes back to what was the first conversation we had this year, about this team, the intangibles of Jalen Hurts. That mentality, one more. Yeah, you guys can all go party and celebrate, but I guarantee they were off yesterday. I guarantee Jalen Hurts showed up. Probably went to get some treatment on his shoulder, wanted to watch a little film, wanted to get a little conversation in and get the ball rolling. Because that's the intangibles that Jalen Hurts sets him above that bar above a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so exciting to be able to watch this kid, grow and mature. And I think Dylan said it on a show like the other night. He's like maturing like to his 40s. Like,
yeah,
the guy is just leaps and bounds up far and above anybody that's playing right now. As far as like, I really do, and I know, yeah, it's too early to say, but he's just the guy that you can just tell is built for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that have great physical tools. I mean, shit, Carson Wentz had great physical tools, but he wasn't a leader. He wasn't. He was a guy that just didn't really belong. Like, he didn't fit in because he alienated his locker rooms, and he didn't carry his team to another level. Jalen Hurts is like the opposite. Like, that's what his bread and butter is.
It's a crazy comparison. It's weird, but he's kind of like Derek Jeter to an extent. I mean, Derek Jeter is one of the greatest baseball players of all time, one of the greatest Yankees of all time. He might not have been the most talented baseball player of all time, but he had those intangibles and those leadership qualities. You never saw him out partying, in the season. You never even saw him partying in the off season. In his playing career, he was dead set focused on one thing: playing baseball, winning championships. And there was a quote, I forget, it was about 12 years into his career. I still remember it. Somebody asked him in one of those World Series that he won, why don't we ever see you celebrating or partying? He's like, dude, I'm going to retire at whatever age. I'll have the rest of my life to party, enjoy, find a girl, start a family, all those things. Right now, I'm focused on one thing, that's baseball, and helping lead this team to championships every year. This was like in that 99 to 02 range, when they won, 3 World Series in a row. Jalen Hurts, we talk about him having the Mamba mentality like Kobe Bryant. Well, he's got the leadership qualities like a Derek Jeter as well. He doesn't let anything else bother him. He's just dead set focused on playing football, and that's it right now. And he's only 24, which to have a 24-year-old human being, I don't know about you, but at 24, I was damn immature. I was nowhere near that kind of maturity level that Jalen Hurts has.
Yeah, I mean,
do you like that Derek Jeter comparison? That was a little curveball I threw at you right there.
I think that was phenomenal. I think I would have never thought of that, and yeah.
That's why you paid the big bucks, That's why I'm the rich one here,
That's why you're running the show, right? I got you.
No, guy, you get that comparison.
No, it's a great comparison.
When was Derek Jeter ever seen like hanging out, partying at clubs? When did you ever see Derek Jeter, get in trouble of any kind?
Derek Jeter was like the opposite of A-Rod.
Yeah, Derek Jeter was like the Captain America, the never give up, the leader of that Yankees organization for I don't know how many years he played, 15, 18, 20 years, whatever it was. He was the heart and soul. He was kind of like Chase Utley. I mean, if you want to use a Philadelphia comparison, I just thought Derek Jeter being a bigger overall superstar would fit the argument a little bit more. But he's kind of like Chase Utley to an extent. Chase Utley was the first Phillies player to ever focus in on just watching film every day. Always watching pitchers' film, so he can always get a little bit better. Jalen Hurts has that, and Jalen Hurts is only 24, and he's already showing, grown-ass man leadership qualities. I think it's insane.
It is insane, and I think, younger players see that. And I'm talking like Jalen Hurts is old, but I'm saying younger players kind of gravitate to that. I look at guys like Kenny Gainwell, the maturation of Kenny Gainwell. Like,
absolutely.
I think there was a point in the season where I was actually starting to think, man, I was wrong about Gainwell, because I loved him coming out of Memphis. Like, I thought he was going to be, a very good complementary type running back, but he's a guy that has the talent to kind of be the guy. Mm-hmm. But he kind of got a little lost towards the end of last year. Like, he just didn't seem like he fit in. And even early this year, he didn't seem like he was really a part of the offense. And now all of a sudden down this stretch, you're seeing Kenny Gainwell, light it up. And it's fun to see because, that only makes our offense better. Because now it's like, okay, well, if Miles Sanders is struggling, we can just put Kenny in there. And then, oh, by the way, Boston Scott still can turn on the juice and run it in. I mean, he did Sunday. So
I mean, you say it gravitates to young players. I think it's kind of the complete opposite too, where you got a team with Kelsey, Graham, Johnson, Cox, all these veterans, possibly future Hall of Fame players at the twilight of their career. And it's not like Jalen Hurts is the quarterback and Jason Kelsey is the leader of this team. Jalen Hurts is leading and Jason Kelsey is falling in line with his quarterback. So it not only does it gravitate towards the young people, when you've got veteran Hall of Fame guys that have won a Super Bowl, honestly. I mean, they're the 4 guys that were here for 2017. You got 4 guys that have won a Super Bowl, and they're being led and willingly being led by a 24-year-old kid. That goes to say something. This is to be seen. I don't know. I agree. I'm not sure yet, but they're at least setting it up for him to be running back 1 next year. But back to the leadership thing, I mean, it's not just the young kids. It's the veterans as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Jason Kelsey. Like,
do you think that Jason Kelsey would have fallen in line with Carson Wentz? No.
How blessed are we to have Jason Kelsey? I mean, just some of the play. Like, when I saw that one touchdown that Miles Sanders had, and Jason, Miles did that I can't do it. I look like a friggin' moron doing it.
Don't even try.
Kelsey, yeah.
You might hurt yourself.
Kelsey goes and does it. And then Goddard was trying to do it after the game. They showed that, and they were laughing at Goddard because he couldn't pull it off. But just Jason Kelsey's a national treasure. He really is. Like, I mean, I hope he's not retiring because selfishly,
he probably has to at this point because you drafted Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens is ready. He probably has to, and he's hinted at it on his podcast with his brother and in some other off interviews, like side interviews, that he's hurt. It takes a lot every day for him to.
Are him and his brother the same age?
I believe they're pretty close to it. Yeah. So, if not, maybe they're twins. I don't know. They just don't look
curious.
Look, so I want to go back to this comment up here. Reed's fingerprints all over this team still in the building. I think it's a fantastic comment because we've been talking about the trenches and the interior of this team, and that is something that Andy Reid always believed in. And maybe that's why I believe in it so much, because I'm so ingrained, because I'm an Andy Reid guy versus Mark not being able to. And I look at Lane Johnson and how he's playing through a torn freaking groin. I love saying that. Instead of saying a broken freaking neck, Kurt Angle style, torn freaking groin. I mean, and he tore it even more, and he's playing even better with it. But the fact that they've built this team to a place where when he comes out, Jack Driscoll is nowhere near Lane Johnson's level. But Jack Driscoll is still, he's a backup on this team, and he would probably start on 15 teams, at least in the NFL. You have Landon Dickerson, who, quickly become one of the best guards in football. Him being probably ready to play Super Bowl Sunday is great. But the fact that they've now gotten Andre Dillard to the point where Andre Dillard can actually fill in at a very viable level in the left guard position, it's another check mark of why we talked. Do we trade Andre Dillard in the offseason before the season started? We were talking about trading him. I think we brought him up as a potential trade partner to get Jesse Bates, from Cincinnati. And Cincinnati still needs offensive line help. But the fact that we've focused so much on the trenches, that's an Andy Reid trait right there. Build from within, and then you build out. It's something that, Andy Reid's footprint and fingerprints are still on this team and how it's built and how it's run. So we almost have to tip our cap to Andy Reid for setting the standard that Howie Roseman builds this team and Jeffrey Lurie builds this team every single year.
It's just crazy that we went from Andy Reid to Chip Kelly. So we had the one little dip. And that's when Jeff Lurie...
It wasn't a dip. Let's be honest. Chip Kelly was doing fine until he was given as soon as he took the control away from Howie Roseman, that is when Chip Kelly dipped. Because we were 10-6 both years under him. 1 playoff appearance, 1 near playoff appearance. So Chip Kelly may have turned into a better coach if he never was given that personnel decision making power.
Yeah, which which is pretty ironic that Howie got banished and then like came back and it was like Howie's better than ever. Because what's this saying? Only difference is Howie isn't fatally attracted.
Yeah, I guess so. And this is great here. This is totally great. And George, I did a whole conversation about midway through the season about that, about that exact thing, innovating, because it talked about how teams were getting away from running the football, it was becoming a passing league, and that's why defensive tackles were getting smaller. You don't have the old school Ndamukong Suh, Jerome Brown, big beefy defensive tackles and nose tackles in football. You got the Aaron Donald athletes nowadays, and it's giving teams more opportunities to run in the middle. And you see the Eagles running in the middle very successfully because they've got a great offensive line, and they're constantly thinking outside the box. And I agree. Chip Kelly's fingerprints are all over. There's fingerprints. Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, but it starts with Jeffrey Lurie, has really done a great job of learning constantly. You always hear the cliche term, be a lifetime learner. Always learn something every day, whether you're 14 or whether you're 41 or whether you're 81. Just keep learning in life. And Jeffrey Lurie has learned something from Andy Reid. Hell, there's probably a little bit of Ray Rhodes in what Jeffrey Lurie does too. Ray Rhodes, Andy Reid, learned a little bit from him. Learned a little bit from Chip Kelly about being innovative on offense. You learned a little bit from Doug Peterson. And I think that we've talked about it before. It starts at the top with this organization. And Jeffrey Lurie, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again today, is one of the greatest, probably top 5 owners in sports across the entire world. I don't know as much about soccer and or football or whatever you want to call it across the seas. I'm sure there's some great owners over there, but he has got to be ranked as one of the greatest owners in sports because he's constantly learning, constantly innovating, constantly keeping the Philadelphia Eagles at the top level that they could possibly be.
I mean, I agree. I know Bob Kraft gets a lot of, credit for being one of the top owners, and rightfully so. I mean,
Bob Kraft has also been involved in some scandals and some other things and some off the field issues. You don't see that with Jeffrey Lurie ever. Never.
No, he's a stand-up guy.
I mean, he had a divorce, and even his divorce, his first divorce. I don't know if he's been divorced a second time, but the one divorce, he's got his new woman there always. Even that went smoothly and cleanly and didn't become an issue in the media or anything like that. He's a stand-up guy that does things the right way.
Where's he originally from, Jeff Lurie?
From, I don't know. Probably, maybe New England, because he originally wanted to buy the Patriots. I'm not sure his background. I know he's big in the movie business. I think he's got 2 Oscars on his mantle now because he's a movie producer as well, or an executive producer. He basically funds movies and stuff like that. I always used to joke that Jeffrey Lurie only cared about one thing, and that's trophies. Whether it was Oscars or Super Bowl titles, he didn't care. The more trophies he can hang up in his office at home, that's all that he cared about. And it's still true to this point, to an extent. But the fact that he didn't even want the Eagles, he wanted the Patriots. He got outbid on the Patriots. The Eagles were his second place prize. But he's being able to take this and turn it into a crown jewel organization. I think it's a tip of the cap to him. It's worthy of this. Yeah. Well, round of applause right there.
Absolutely. I mean, Super Bowl 2004, Super Bowl 2017, Super Bowl 2023.
It's kind of a shame that he's been here since what? When did he buy the team? 94, 95, something like that.
90.
That we've only won. He's the crown jewel. He's like the elite owner, but we've only won one title. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of a crazy conversation for another day. I want to bring the Sixers back in the conversation for the next 10 minutes or so. But it's Eagles related with the Sixers. Joel Embiid, obviously. So we're blessed in Philly. We've got Bryce Harper with the Phillies. We've got Joel Embiid with the Sixers. And we've got Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. We've got 3 superstar elite players. But Joel Embiid's missing one thing, in my opinion. And that's that Jalen Hurts Mamba mentality. You saw it last night in the game. The emotions of the game, he lets them overcome him. We need Joel Embiid to sit down with Jalen Hurts. Just go live with Jalen Hurts. I know you're not going to live with him, but you know what I mean? Just immerse yourself with Jalen Hurts and that mentality that Jalen Hurts has. I really think that's what separates Joel Embiid from Joel Embiid will always be one of the best players in the NBA, but he can't actually physically carry this team to the title because he's missing that one quality of Jalen Hurts. Is there? Am I on the right path there? Because you see it the big game on Saturday when they beat the Nuggets. He even let the emotion of beating the two-time MVP Nikolai Jokic get the better of him. He had an amazing game. He let that elevate him. But then last night against the Magic, the foul calls aren't going your way. The defense, the rotations. There were so many individual things wrong with that game that you let a bad Orlando Magic team come back from being down 21 to beat you in Philly. And it was because he lets the emotions get the best of him. Is there a way you could teach? Joel Embiid's 28 now? Can Jalen Hurts actually physically teach?
I don't know
how to be better at that.
I don't know if leadership is something that can be taught. I sometimes
he's not a leader. He's a leader. He's not the elite leader.
He's not the type of leader. He's not the same type. I think there's different levels of leadership. There's people that can lead by example, lead on the court, lead by their way of the play. There's also people that lead by how they act on and off the court. When I say court, I mean on and off the field. It could be on and off the ice. I think sometimes Joel Embiid, the issue with Joel Embiid is, as you said, he needs, I don't know if it's the leadership that he lacks, but he doesn't know how to hone it properly. Like,
yeah, that's a great word to use there. He doesn't know how to hone it and pull it all together.
Yeah, I think he has it.
Versus Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper shows the same type of emotions in a game like Joel Embiid does. He doesn't have that same leadership, that Jalen Hurts does. But in baseball, it's a different sport. Basketball, leadership-wise, is very similar to leadership in football because you've got one guy on the court versus on the field all at the same time that could drive the bus, so to speak. In baseball, when you're hitting offensively, there isn't necessarily that person that can drive the bus. It's a more of an individual type sport, one-on-one versus the pitcher. So it's different there. Joel Embiid is more like Bryce Harper, but he needs more of the Jalen Hurts mentality. And I don't know how you hone that. And I don't want to come back on Doc Rivers. And I actually, started to say the other day that I'm almost ready to give Doc Rivers some credit for he's coaching very well this year, considering everything. But maybe it is the coach that needs to help hone Joel Embiid in that leadership department. And I'm not trying to say Joel Embiid is not a leader. He is. He obviously is. But he's just a different type of leader. And he needs more of that Jalen Hurts. He needs more of that Mamba mentality that Jalen Hurts has.
I think Joel Embiid has matured, but I think he's capable of maturing more. I think he still has some instances where his immaturity comes out. Like whether it's the best of him. Those moments where he does let those emotions get the best of him, or those moments where he maybe sometimes might not say the right thing, when he's interviewed. Like, he needs to, listen, at the end of the day, I still think the Sixers did what they thought was right by getting, bringing Harden back. They drafted Maxey. Like, I still don't think they've surrounded Embiid. It's almost like I as a fan feel like we are wasting his talent because
absolutely
he's a guy that has the talent to kind of.
But see, the thing is, I don't think in today's NBA, a guy like Joel Embiid, what Joel Embiid should be doing, it's a different game. Joel Embiid would have been surrounded better in the late 90s with a different style of NBA play. It's funny you bring up James Harden. My Facebook memory, like every single day, I see what we talked about last year this day because, Facebook memories, and I always share these shows out on Facebook. My Facebook memory today from last year was, should the Sixers just do it and make the trade for James Harden? We're this close because the NBA trade deadline is next week, I think. I think it's the 11th. The 11th is next week, right? It's sometime next week, the NBA trade deadline.
So
it's always about we were talking about James Harden nonstop and what we should do with Ben Simmons. But yeah, I don't know if he could change who he is at this point, leadership wise. I don't know if they could surround him with the perfect, the perfect players. I just think that he needs to find a way to control his emotions, because you also see it. You see it in the game last week against the Nets when Ben Simmons was in town. He let the emotions of that moment. We won that game, but he took some hard falls. He took some hard fouls and some sloppy plays because he was letting the emotion of trying to one-up Ben Simmons, that immaturity level to an extent. He's not 24 anymore. He's 28, 29 years old, whatever he is. He's in the heart, the meat of his career right now, and he hasn't matured. And that's what I'm trying to say about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is only 24 years old, and he's already an elite leader and grown-ass man when it comes to maturity level. And I think that is what is going to go unnoticed about Jalen Hurts the most, is he acts like he's 30 years old and been in the league for 10 years.
So let me ask you an honest question about the Sixers.
Okay.
Right now, what? They have the third best record? The Celtics,
with last night's loss, they fell from the second to the third seed in the Eastern Conference, or a half a game back of the Bucks for the 2 seed, 3 games back of the Celtics for the 1 seed.
Okay, so they're one of the top 5 teams in the.
They're one of the top 3 teams in the East, no doubt about it. They should finish in the top 3, no doubt about it.
Top 5 in the whole league right now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
okay,
I would say they're top 5 in the NBA right now. Sure.
So we are trending. So what did we say coming into the season that we would have to do to kind of be a success? Because we've said that they haven't gotten out of this past the second round, right? So
yeah, they never have. Yeah.
So technically, it's Eastern Conference Finals or bust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If not Conference Finals.
Right.
So I think they have a legit shot at that. I do. And I think we should. I think a lot of times with the Sixers, we kind of, our expectations, like you said, they change as we go. But I would have never, 3 months ago when the Sixers were struggling, I would have never thought we'd be at this conversation, because I thought they were just playing bad. There was injured. Maxey was hurt. Harden got hurt.
Everybody was hurt.
Honestly, right now, I mean, yes, small sample size last night's game was horrible. But,
absolutely,
overall, the Sixers have been, trending as the best team in the league. So I think we got to kind of, I don't want to say be patient, because we've been patient. But I think we do have to say, okay, well, let's see how this season plays out. Because if they do go to the conference finals, then that to me does show that they've improved and there is growth with Embiid. But I agree. I think Embiid, I can't put my finger on what it is, but he is missing something. That as you said, Jalen Hurts.
I just think at this point we have to realize that he isn't going to become that Jalen Hurts type.
No,
he's not. There's always going to be, and I think to an extent, that raw emotion you see from him is something that makes him that superstar he is. I think if you take that emotion away from Joel Embiid to an extent, that he might not be as dominant, because sometimes that emotion, and we saw it on Saturday night, that emotion elevated him to being able to dominate Nikola Jokic, the 2-time MVP. And then the emotion last night got the better of him, and he had some really bad turnovers late in the game and stuff like that. So I think it's a positive and a negative. Now, I'll say it again. I've said it a few times in the last month or so. We just completed the easiest stretch of our schedule, the Sixers. I mean, they had about a month of games they're 20-5 in their last 20 wins, 5 losses in their last 25 games. But in that 25-game stretch, they had a lot of easy games. A lot. We replay the Magic on Wednesday, and I fully expect the Sixers on Wednesday night to come out and just be pissed off and destroy the Magic. I fully expect that. But then after that, the Sixers got a really tough stretch of games mid-February through March. I mean, you've got a lot of playoff teams. You got Boston multiple times, Brooklyn, Memphis, Cleveland, Miami back-to-back, Dallas, Milwaukee, Portland again, Cleveland again. I mean, they go on from, we'll start with the Knicks game on Sunday, February 5th. You go from there till mid-March, every single game is against a playoff team. So where will we be in a month? We start the season again with a tough schedule. We struggled. We got really hot against the weak part of our schedule. Now we're going back into a crunch time, a tough schedule. We'll know more about this team in another month. When spring training is heated up, will we be talking spring training, or will we be talking about the playoff push for the Sixers? We'll know that in a month.
Will they make any deals?
Yeah, they're gonna make multiple deals, I think, because they do need to improve their bench. They need another shooter. There's gonna be lots of rumors. It's gonna be a small time deal. It's not going to be a major deal. But there's also a lot of talk floating around that they want to trade Furkan, maybe Jaden Springer, some of their back-end guys, because they are, the way the salary cap works, the Sixers are hard capped. And they're so far over the luxury tax. If they could find a taker for Furkan, Springer, it helps bring them their luxury tax number down. So while the Sixers don't mind spending money, they have spent so much money clearing some of those back-end guys that are never going to see the court, except for in mop-up duty, or if 4 guys get hurt at the same time. Clearing those guys and their money off the books does help the team business-wise. So you might see some of those moves happen as well. All right, we're going to wrap it up right there. We snuck like 10 minutes of Sixers talk into this show, but it still doesn't matter. Why? Because we've proved this graphic to be so inaccurate, 110%. I'm just going to keep throwing that graphic up all week long, multiple times a show. We're going to wrap it up again, trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. If you've watched this show on replay, make sure you like and subscribe to the DSM Media YouTube page. Turn the notifications on so you don't miss when we go live. Also, drop your comments, concerns, questions, thoughts, anything. I go back and I check all the comments on the YouTube page after the show's done. If you've got anything in the replay. Also, obviously, follow us on Twitter at Bearded Knowledge, at Mustang3651, at DSM_media. We'll interact with you on all those channels and all those sites. Everybody have a great day, and it's going to be Go Birds for the next 2 weeks. I don't care what happens. It's Go frickin' Birds. We're in the Super Bowl, baby!
And Philadelphia has it.